Hi there, my name is Jesse Josh. Welcome to Literature in English class. And so far, we've treated a lot. We've come so far as regards, literature in English. We talked about literature, its introduction. We did an overview of what literature was or is. We talked about the forms of literature. We talked about types of literature or genres of literature. We talked about poetry, its types and its features. We talked about prose, its types and its features. We talked about drama, its types and its features. We also talked about the figures of speech, which we've treated a lot of them, right? And in one of the previous classes, we treated metaphor as extensively as a figure of speech, because it's really much more than we actually think or know about. So we treated metaphor and the types of metaphor, and we talked about the difference between simile, metaphor, and analogy. Okay, so this is all to tell you that you have missed a lot if you're just joining us here, and it would be advisable and for you to go back and watch the previous videos so that you can be caught up to speed with what we are doing. The only way to know what we are doing, or to fully understand what we are doing now, or where we are going to, is to know where we are coming from. Okay, so please go back, watch the videos, leave your comments, your questions. They are all very welcome. Okay. Having exhausted all the things we have to do on figures of speech and literary devices, we also talked about the difference between figures of speech and literary devices, which have been has generated a lot of controversy as to whether they are the same thing or not. We talked about literary devices and figures of speech, right? And we talked about a few of the figures of speech, and we dealt with it. So having come so far in literature, we are now going to, analyze texts. The WAEC or JAMB syllabus has a way of recommending particular texts across the genres of literature for a specific number of years. All right, so for I think it's about 10 years. So for 5 to 10 years, there is a specific text that students in secondary school, work with, right, to work on their literary devices, to analyze basically and to critique. Okay, so from now till 2025, there's a literary text. There are a couple of literary texts that we'll be dealing with, or that WAEC and JAMB and NECO has recommended from now to 2025 for the analysis by students, and which is going to be the exam, the focus for the exams as regards literature. So we're going to be looking at, reviewing this text. We're going to be analyzing this text, right? Okay. When it comes to analyzing, what are we talking about? We're talking about, spotting out the literary devices used. We're talking about spotting out the characters and characterization. We're talking about the plot. We're going to talk about the settings, right? We're going to talk about the themes. We're going to talk about the style of writing of that particular work of literature. Okay, we're going to talk about the authors of those the authors or the playwrights, as the case may be. So that's basically what analyzing or reviewing a literature text is all about. It's not just going to be literature text. We're going to also review poems. All right, we're going to review poems, which is what we'll be doing from now onwards. Okay, so I want to tell you before we go forward or moving on from here, that this review or this analysis will not suffice for reading the books. You have to read the books. All right, this analysis cannot substitute for reading the books. No, it will not. It will not. In fact, this analysis is just, it's going to make more sense to you if only you have read the book. Okay, you cannot understand this analysis. Trying to use this analysis as the center or the framework of your study will not help you so much. You won't go so far in just restricting yourself to this summary or the analysis of the various texts that we're going to be treating. Okay, so you have to have read the books. We have drama, prose, and the poems. So you have to have read them, and then this analysis will make more sense to you. Okay, All right. So basically, WAEC and JAMB, the WAEC, JAMB, and NECO syllabus has a way they specify this text. So we have African drama, non-African drama. We have African prose, non-African prose. We have poetry, right? I think the poetry is also classified into Africa and non-African poetry. Then we have one drama, one English drama, right? So that's usually from the England, written by English poets or English authors, right? So we have for this session, we're going to be treating William Shakespeare's A Midnight Summer Dream. It's a drama, right? So basically that's it. So we have African drama, 2 African dramas, and 2 non-African dramas, 2 African prose, and 2 non-African prose. Then same goes for the poetry, right? So that is how we're going to be analyzing, or it's in that order we're going to be analyzing these literary texts, okay? All right, so moving on, we're going to be talking about African drama. Now let me just give you, we're starting off with the drama text first, or the genre of literature called drama. We're starting off with those texts. So we have African drama, and under the African drama, we have 2 works, 2 books, Lion and the Jewel and Let Me Die Alone. Lion and the Jewel and Let Me Die Alone. Then for the non-African drama, we have Look Back in Anger and Fences. Look Back in Anger and Fences. So we're going to treat these ones, and then we'll move to analyzing or criticizing the work of prose, okay? And then we move on to poetry. I hope you enjoy, and I hope this analysis and review helps you a lot. Okay, like I said earlier, this does not substitute for reading the book. You have to read the book for this analysis to make more sense to you. All right, so the first one we're going to be analyzing this morning is, or today, the first one we're going to be analyzing today is The Lion and the Jewel. Okay, the African drama, The Lion and the Jewel. Let's start off with who wrote this book. So this book was written by Wole Soyinka, Professor Wole Soyinka. Let's talk about him a little for a while. This is called About the Playwright. You cannot just, it is not very, very okay to pick a work of literature and not know a little or a considerable amount of information about who wrote the book. All right. Part of analyzing a work of literature is knowing who wrote it. Okay, you can't just pick a work of art and start analyzing. You have to, familiarize yourself with the writer. Right. It's going to help you, not just in exams, but to know who is who. Okay. So you don't just know a book and not know who wrote it. It kind of sounds awkward. If it doesn't for you, it does for me. So you have to know a book and then know the author. So let's look at the author of The Lion and the Jewel. Wole Soyinka was born in 1934. His first 11 years were spent in Abeokuta, Ogun State, where he received his earliest education. For his secondary school learning, he attended Government College, Ibadan, while his tertiary education took him to the University of Ibadan and Leeds University in England. All right. He has published about 4 autobiographical works. The Man Died, 1972. Ake, I don't know, my Yoruba is not so good, but I don't know whether it's Ake or Ake. Ake 1982. Isara, 1989. And Ibadan, 1994. All right. Wole Soyinka also won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986. He's the first African to merit such a prize. He was actually the first African to win the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986. Now, we're not just giving you this, statements or this about the playwright. We're not just telling you about the playwright, just so you know. Sometimes in exams they bring out this stuff, right? And you have to, if you don't know it, then you would have lost a point or marks, as the case may be. So you have to really pay attention, and even if it doesn't come out in exam, no knowledge is a waste, like they say. Okay, so it's actually the first African to merit such a prize. He was particularly recognized for his plays, which in fact have become his most bounteous harvest of over 30 dramatic texts, including The Lion and the Jewel, which was first published in 1963. So this book we are treating is a very old book, but it seems to still be relevant up to this day, right? It was actually, Lion and Jewel was actually first published in 1963, and this is just one of many of his, dramatic texts. All right. We're going to put a pause to this video, and in the next class we're going to go fully. We're going to start off with the plot of Lion and the Jewel, right? So it's going to be basically like a summary. If you were with us when we talked about the how do we put it? Yeah, features of a prose, right? You remember we talked about plots, how that plot is the sequential arrangement of events, right? But we're going to talk about this plot. Of course, this plot will not be very, very comprehensive, which is why I will keep saying till the end of this video, and as much as I have to, that you have to. This analysis is not a substitute for reading the book. You have to read the book for this analysis to make sense to you, okay? So I'll see you in the next class where we'll talk about, we'll go fully into the plot of Lion and the Jewel. I'll see you in the next class.